All right, October 4th, and we're gonna be coming to present day with this. This has a purpose. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirms the White House is looking into how a child murderer was able to be released from prison after just 10 years. 6-year-old Logan Tipton was stabbed so violently in the head by Ronald Exantis in 2015 that the butcher's knife bent. Exantis has now been released early due to his good behavior.
I held him so deep in my arms, and finally, he took his last breath, looked at me, and closed his eyes, and he was gone.
Ronald Exantis traveled from Indianapolis to Versailles, walked into the Tipton's home, and attacked the family in their sleep. Logan was killed, and his father and 2 sisters were injured.
He snaps, and he just stands up with me sitting on top of him, and he throws me across the room. 10, 15 feet, he throws me across the room and goes after her.
3 years later, in 2018, Exantis was found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity, but
I feel like reason of insanity should not come with a not guilty verdict, and it should come with a you immediately get removed from society. Not a you get locked up in jail, not a you get locked up in a mental health facility where you're treated with kid gloves, a death penalty immediately and expeditedly.
Convicted of assaulting other family members. And just this month, October 1st, Exantis was released early from prison for good behavior.
It's infuriating that a 6-year-old was killed sleeping in his bed, and someone literally only did 10 years in prison, and he didn't even do the time for that. He did time for assault charges. It's just infuriating.
But the family says it isn't just anger they're living with. It's fear.
Me and my siblings and even my mom and dad, from here on out, we have the burden of making sure that he doesn't come back.
He told her he was going to kill every one of us. So now, I've got to be on extra guard to protect my kids, because I will not lose another one.
How does a guy who says, I'm going to kill all of you, get out of jail on good behavior? I absolutely hate whatever a farce of a justice system we have left is.
Not like this.
I laid in bed. I gave up. I gave up on life. I gave up on my family. I gave up on everybody. I just wanted to die.
Everybody deserves a fighting chance to have justice for them, and it's not.
I've had my talks with God, because I'm not afraid to tell you all. I told the court, if I ever cross paths with him, I will kill the man. I will kill him where he stands.
Honestly. Fair, honestly, and I cannot blame him. I cannot blame him. Channeling the spirit of Gary Plausch, honestly. Can you even imagine how hard that is for the father? He cannot act to avenge his child as it would put his other kids at risk. Well, so if he ever comes across the guy, and I do not blame him for desiring that, Ronald Exantis, to no one's surprise, was rearrested, this time in Florida.
We begin today with a case that has really captured the attention of the nation in a lot of ways, and that is the arrest of a 42-year-old Kentucky man who was charged in connection with a case out of 2015 that involved the stabbing death of a 6-year-old boy. The suspect in this, Ronald Exantis, he was put on trial. He was convicted of assault, but was found not guilty by reason of insanity in the murder of that 6-year-old boy. He was released from prison early after 8 years, served 8 years of his 20-year sentence, and was released on parole. There was news that he had been down here in Florida somewhere. Well, investigators tracked him down, and they ended up arresting him for failing to register as a convicted felon.
Spicy cat raid. What the hell is a spicy cat raid?
The Blue Rose Gal, thank you for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, Raiders. That's crazy. They're like, hey, we're just going to let you go, Mr. Killer Man. I hope you do the right thing and register as a convicted felon. Why would you expect that?
As a felon, he would have had to register within 48 hours with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. And the investigators found him living in a home next to Sunrise Elementary School, they said. So he is now behind bars, charged with failing to register as a felon. But
good behavior, by the way.
Today, I had the chance to speak with Dean Tipton. He is the father of this 6-year-old boy who was killed back in 2015. That is a case that I covered personally when I worked in Kentucky. I covered the trial.
They found a
this,
child murderer
suspect,
next to an
Ronald
elementary
Exantis,
school.
and,
Imagine.
I caught up with Dean earlier this morning to get his reaction to what all this has been. The week or so that Exantis was out because Tipton's comments to a TV station in Lexington, Kentucky went viral and even got the attention of the White House when he reacted to the release of this man and said, if I see him, if I cross paths with him, I will kill him. Those were the words of Dean Tipton.
You're thinking about the retweet I did of that woman saying serial killers are people just like you and me. That woman was on some crazy shit. I cannot believe that was an actual tweet. Like, if you want people to stop saying repeal the 19th, maybe stop saying things that make them say that. What the fuck?
And so I talked with him earlier today, and he said there's a sense of relief knowing that this man is now back behind bars. Here's my conversation with him, and I started by asking him how he found out that Exantis had been rearrested. How did you find out about Exantis' arrest down here?
Actually watching Fox News. We had just turned it on and it come across breaking news with Will Kane, and that's how we found out that he was arrested.
What's going through your mind at that point when you saw that?
Shock, disbelief, happiness, sadness, everything, all the emotions all wrapped up in one.
It's been, what, a couple weeks now that he's been out on parole?
Yeah, like a week and a half.
What has that time been like for you?
It's been pretty nerve-wracking. It opened up a lot of scars and wounds that I thought I had healed from, that I have found out obviously I haven't. And it's pretty much the same thing with all my family. Just being on edge, anxiety, breakdowns. I had to take off from work just because my mental state wasn't in a very good spot.
Dean, this is a case that has been getting a lot of national attention over the past week or so.
Well, yeah, because it's fucking ludicrous,
because
man.
of what you told WKYT there in Lexington, that if you ever came across Ronald Exantis, you would kill him on the spot.
Yeah, I mean...
Warranted? Justifiable?
It's one of the regrets I have is not doing it that night. But I didn't know Logan was hurt. I didn't know he had been injured at all. But I think any father would feel the same way. I don't want my kids to have to walk around the rest of their life wondering if this man was going to come back and do the job, finish the job that he told them that he was going to do.
How much have you talked about some of the wounds being reopened? It's been 10 years, and yet, here you are reliving some of these things.
Is the correct response to having your child murdered, not the "I forgive him" BS? Yeah. That other dad, Austin Metcalf's dad, probably should get together with this dad. Maybe he could learn something.
It's like reliving December 7th all over again. That whole time period, and maybe a little worse, because during that time we had adrenaline going. This time it was just all a shock and kind of caught us by surprise, and it's just sickening knowing that he could get out the way he got out.
Yeah, agreed. See, Thomas the Peasant, thank you. Every judge and DA who are soft on these kinds of criminals deserve to have their offices, titles, and citizenship stripped and then deported to Somalia. Yeah. I can't disagree. There needs to start being repercussions for the judges and DAs. And again, they are doing some sort of thing where, like, the families can bring civil cases against the judges and the DA, but I think there needs to be more than just civil. I'm hoping that, like, civil pathway is just the beginning, because there needs to be, like, criminal charges for this kind of shit. It's gone on way too long, and it's way too absurd. Weird how uncomfortable the journalist is getting, talking about how a loving father would kill his own child's murderer with his bare hands. I don't know how uncomfortable the journalist is, because he just has, like, this weird inflection. It seems like just the way he talks since, like, the beginning of this segment. It reminds me of that weird guy from the Adult Swim show that I never remember the name of. Droxas, thank you. There's also a difference between forgiveness and holding people accountable for their actions. The two are not mutually exclusive. One can forgive and still hand out justice. I would save the I forgive yous for after the justice has been doled out, you know? Judges aren't going to rule another judge guilty over something like this. Yeah, maybe we should do what President Bukake did then. Maybe we just need to impeach the judges. Everyone is sick of this.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I was in the courtroom for the trial. I was there that late night, early morning when the verdict was read, and I remember some of the confusion over the verdict and how he would be able to be convicted of assault, but found not guilty by reason of insanity for the murder of Logan. And I'm just curious what
Once again, I feel like our system of reason of insanity has gotten taken advantage of for way too long. It should not be a get out of jail free card. It should not be, okay, you get a vacation in a mental health respite place. It should be this is a last resort that you plead if you genuinely cannot be held to the same standards as other human beings. And if you legitimately cannot be held to the same basic societal standards and you don't comprehend that rape is bad or murder is bad or trying to murder someone is bad, you just get removed from society. You get the death penalty on an expedited table. You don't get decades to appeal because you just pled insanity. You didn't understand what you did. So how could you be expected to understand 10, 20 years of appeals? No, just get the fuck out. Take him out behind the barn, give him an old yeller, and it's over. Agreed? You can just kill these people to protect society. It's insane to me that we've gotten to a point where we just coddle criminals. And it's not even like every single criminal. Once again, the people that do this kind of stuff are like the top 1 to 3% of the most violent. So you don't even have to get rid of a lot of people in order to like make society healthy again. But unfortunately, we don't have a justice system that's willing to do what needs to be done to these kinds of criminals.
We've kind of learned about the justice system through this whole process.
You mean the unjust system?
Yeah.
That's what it is. There was no justice. There was no accountability for who killed my son. Pretty much we were told nobody did it. And it's a disgrace to Kentucky, and it's a disgrace to our nation, knowing that a man can go in and stab a 6-year-old sleeping boy to death and then plead insanity and walk free. We know he didn't walk free because he got the time for the assaults, but he walked free from the murder of my son.
Yep.
And then after all that, only spending 8 years behind bars before being released on parole. What do you think of that part of it?
Also, that's another interesting question. How did he manage to get, like, what did they say, 20 years for aggravated assault? How was he able to get 20 years for aggravated assault but was let off on the murder charge due to insanity? If he was insane, wouldn't he have been let off on both charges because he wouldn't have understood assault bad as well? There's a couple of, like, discrepancies here I'm not exactly understanding.
Yeah, they say this MRS, whatever the hell this law is that they created, was for nonviolent criminals. How in the world is he deemed a nonviolent criminal? Even though it doesn't show on his charges that he had murdered somebody, how do you nonviolently assault somebody with a weapon?
You have the right politics,
that makes
obviously.
No sense to me.
You'll never accept letting people off on crimes for being insane? Yeah, like it could make sense for actual unironic non-violent offenders, but he's just explaining here how they basically pushed this through as it would only count towards non-violent offenders, but this guy was able to use that law to basically get away with murder. So clearly, anything that sounds good and could be useful for a small subset of a population is just going to be subversed and used for horrible things. More than that, the states have 3 strikes rules that nobody's been enforcing the 3 strikes rules, as we can see. It's like every day there are multiple stories that come out of a guy with like 40 priors, 50 priors, 70 priors, 110 priors. Doesn't make sense to plead insanity after murder, even if that's the reason why the murder happened. Why does it make sense that someone with a murdering causing disease is left out in the open? Because we live in clown world and we can't escape.
Dean, your family's been getting a lot of support on social media from folks all across the country. We know the White House has said they are...
Why aren't Republicans impeaching these judges? Because Republicans are spineless do-nothings that won't actually do what needs to be done in order to make our country safer again for the people living here. Like I've said a few times, the Democrats are actively hastening the destruction of our country, and Republicans are looking at them and being like, how can I appease the Democrats so that I can still stay in power and appear bipartisan, while also tricking my constituents into thinking I'll actually do anything that helps them? I am sick. I'm sick of it, man.
Have been looking into this case. I'm wondering who all maybe you've heard from and what you kind of make of the response to this.
You know, seeing everybody tweet it out and share Logan's story, you know, it's good to see, because that's the only way we're ever going to get change, is getting it out there and getting it shared, and the people speaking up and being outraged over it. But as far as anybody contacting me, the only person that's contacted me is Mr. Jason Nemus. He's a state representative here in Kentucky.
Aww.
Other than that, and he's contacting us about wanting to create a Logan's Law. But as far
Evan Around Productions, thank you. This is why, whether or not someone was demonically possessed, if they off someone, they're still responsible. Hollywood has tried to make us feel sorry for this archetype. I think having, like, occasional, you know, tortured villain or sympathetic villains in media can be an interesting concept. But once every single villain becomes some sort of, like, I feel bad for him kind of figure, it, like, puts in your mind that there is no diametrically evil people that exist. And media is one of the biggest ways to produce propaganda, because it's just like the bread and circus, right? People enjoy ingesting it. And so once you have, like, every single villain being relatable, quirky, misunderstood guy, people eventually will just not have the guard up anymore and not believe that actual evil can exist. Which it can, and it do. And, like, when you get cases of, like, 14-year-olds raping and murdering other minors, yeah, I don't want to give that thing any kind of a chance to grow older and do more harm. Like, it's absurd that people want to do rehabilitation in that regard when they've already committed something so incredibly heinous.
The president, our governor, nobody has contacted us and told us anything. We found out that he was arrested in Florida through the news. Nobody has contacted us that, hey, he's back in jail. You all can, you know, breathe a sigh of relief right now. We are finding everything out on our own through social media, and I'm disgusted with Kentucky by not reaching out to us. And I want to thank the state of Florida and Marion County for doing what Kentucky wouldn't do and putting the monster back behind bars.
Dean, I want to talk about Logan for a minute. You know, he was 6 years old. You know, it's been almost 10 years. He'd be, 16. Driver's license, you know, all that. Those things that you think about with turning 16. And I'm curious how much you think about that and the kid that he would be today if it weren't for what happened on December 7th, 2015.
I think about this every day. I think any parent would think about their son every day, but I often wonder, how big he would be. I see his teammates that he played football with in kindergarten. I see them all the time, you know, they're sophomores and juniors in high school, and I see how much they have grown. And I often wonder, you know, how big would he be? What would his personality be like now? I think about him a lot.
What do you want people to know about him? You know, as we focus on what happened to Ronald Exantis here, but you know, don't want to lose sight of your son. What do you want people to know about Logan?
He genuinely had a good, loving heart.
I see a lot of you guys saying that, like, that's a tactless question. And part of me agrees. Part of me thinks that maybe this interviewer's a little touch of the tism here. But I think it's an important thing to ask someone in this situation, because it gets out just the level and the scope of hurt and damage that being soft on criminals does to a family that did nothing wrong. So I don't see this the same as, like, sensationalizing the murderer was a good boy, he was going to college, getting his life together. This is someone who should still be alive, who should still be with their family, whose life was taken as a child because some crazy guy was out on the streets when he probably shouldn't have been. And then after all of this happened to this family, he only got 20 years for assault. He pleaded insanity, so was found not guilty for the murder. Only got 20 years for aggravated assault. Only served 8 of those 20 years. And then was set free. And the way that you reach a lot of these people who have been demonically twisted by propaganda to prop up criminals above innocent people like this is you show them the emotional destruction that it causes. And you hope that there's enough human left in them that they can comprehend that the destruction of innocence is worse than the destruction of criminals. That is the only hope you have left to reach those people. It's tactless, but it puts the viewer in the shoes of the victim's father. It's good for them to see his perspective. Yeah, could he have asked it in a more sensitive way? Yes, absolutely. But as someone who is also a little tism touched when I ask questions in an interviewer position, I could get where he was trying to come from. So I don't exactly blame him for that.
He loved everyone. And I know that sounds crazy, but we would be in the grocery store and he'd disappear on us. You could imagine me and my wife with 5 kids running around. And he would disappear, and I would catch him in the next aisle hugging some stranger that I didn't even know, telling him that he loved him. And that's who Logan was. A quick story. His Sunday school teacher told me this, and this was like 2 weeks before December 7th that I was that he had done this. But he was at Sunday school, and they were writing down what they were going to give Jesus for his birthday.
Unfortunately, a majority will not see it that way. The freaks that I'm trying to talk to will only see the color of his skin. Yeah. And again, if anyone, said something about, it being deserved, or something like, the criminal should be treated a bit better, right? Then you would know that they're not an individual that you can have a rational conversation with. And the more that kind of radical speech is just promoted, right? How many people woke up to how violent the left has become after Charlie Kirk? How many people realized this isn't a small minority of freaks online? These are my neighbors. These are my coworkers. These are the average leftist opinions. How many people woke up to that, seeing how many people cheer on these, like, soft on crime policies, right? How many more is it going to take before something happens is a great question. But it's still people noticing how radicalized the left has become. Even if it takes normies quite a longer time than it did a lot of us. Michael Turner, thank you. It's a shame Republicans overall don't view politics as the blood sport Democrats do. Republicans could abolish the lower courts in its current form and reform it with a majority with some courage. They are still stuck on, we care about optics, we don't care about getting things done. And Democrats have been, we don't care about optics, we care about getting things done for about a decade now. Which is why Democrats can come out and say, yeah, I want to shoot my Republican opponent. I want to watch his children die in his wife's arms and still get elected. Like that happened is such a wild concept to me that it is still hard for me to believe that that is a real event that has actually happened in real life and not some kind of movie. Sonic Extreme, thank you. You sometimes think some people try to delude themselves that evil doesn't exist to shield themselves from the possibility they themselves have the capacity for evil and they can't deal with it. I think this is also what a lot of like anti-gun people are like, where they're just like, I know I would be susceptible to doing bad things with a firearm and everyone else must think like me, therefore nobody should be trusted with a firearm.
For Christmas coming up, and Logan hadn't written anything down, and the Sunday school teacher asked him, like, Logan, why haven't you written anything down? And he said that he had done given Jesus his gift. He had done gave him his heart.
Aww.
And that was coming from a 6-year-old boy. So that right there should tell you what kind of kid he was.
It gives you some comfort too, I'm sure.
Yes.
Dean, what do you want people to know? And what's next? What's next for y'all as we continue to kind of keep an eye on this?
And look at those glasses. You can't tell me that interviewer's not autistic.
Of course, we want to go through and try to push Logan's Law. We want people who we really want to abolish the insanity plea altogether.
Yep.
But if that can't happen, we want these people to be held accountable, not be set free back on the streets. They need to be put somewhere.
And again, he said
that
there was like only one Kentucky politician who like reached out to him even. And I think like Arena's law got passed pretty quickly. So if he actually gets together with some politician to get this bill in front of people, I think this would also have a very good chance of passing. And anyone who would try to defend it would look psychopathic at this point.
And other than that, I would like to see him this monster brought back up on charges federally. He crossed state lines. He committed a felony murder. And we've done research on it. It's called dual sovereignty. And from what I understand, they can charge him again federally if they choose.
Well, he is now behind bars. We will see where things go from here. Will y'all sleep a little bit better tonight?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the bottom line? What do you want people to know?
Monsters are real, people.
Yep.
And there needs to be a change in our judicial system, not just statewide, but nationwide, to protect our families, our loved ones, our babies. Just keep sharing Logan's story, and maybe together we can make a change.
If Ronald DeSantis weren't arrested this week in Florida, do you worry about what might have happened next?
Yeah, because I question myself, what kind of man spends that long in prison and doesn't do a check-in within 48 hours to stay out? I honestly think he was going to run. I believe he was going to try to disappear.
Well, yeah.
This story's everywhere, and I think he was going to try to disappear.
We had body cam footage of his arrest. It was pretty cool. Can't imagine the horror and sadness that ripped through that family when they realized this man was being released early.
He had a little more than a week of freedom, but now Ronald DeSantis is once again locked up. The 42-year-old was released from prison here in Kentucky last week.
DeSantis was charged with killing 6-year-old Logan Tipton in 2015. A jury ultimately found him not guilty of murder by reason of insanity, but they did convict him of assault assault for stabbing Logan's 2 sisters and his father.
WKOAT's Kelsey Soto shares more now.
Which still doesn't make sense to me. How are you expected to understand aggravated assault bad? You stabbed these 2 girls and their father, that's bad, do some time. But, oh, you're too insane to understand murder bad, so we're just gonna give you no charges for that one, actually. What the fuck, dude? Like, none of this makes sense.
How about why officials in Florida are now holding him in their jail?
The Marion County Sheriff's Office down in Florida said today they have been inundated with interest in this case, but the most important phone call came from Logan Tipton's family, thanking them for putting Exantis back behind bars.
Bring him all the way back.
Here's Ronald Exantis being taken back into custody just a week after being released from prison. He appears genuinely confused. Sheriff's deputies in Marion County, Florida, slapped cuffs on him for a new misdemeanor charge of failure to register as a convicted felon.
Our hope is maybe we shoulder just a little bit of that burden that the Tipton family shoulders every single day in thinking of this. And I can't imagine the horror and the sadness that ripped through that family when they realized this man was being released.
The way he says horror sounds
Lieutenant
more like
Paul
horror than
Bloom
when I
says the
say
sheriff's
horror.
office there was monitoring Exantis at a house in Ocala. That home sat right next to an elementary school. However, it's not a violation for him to be living near a school. They say he did, however, fail to register as a felon.
You know, that's okay. If you're a pedophile, you can't be near a school. But if you murder children, you're still allowed to be near a school that children go to. That makes a lot of sense, actually. You know, child murderers should have the right to live near children going to school. What the fuck?
With their department within 48 hours. It's lined out on this paperwork he signed Monday.
Put him back behind bars where he belongs. And the outrage that we've seen from this nationally, I think stems from a few things. It stems from the seemingly loss of common sense in a judicial system in some places to turn somebody like this back out into the public.
The Marion County Sheriff's Office says they have an entire division dedicated to this type of compliance and enforcement. They aren't sure why he chose to relocate to Florida, but they are aware that he has family in the Sunshine State. They're hoping his stay is a short one.
There's consequences to actions, and I get he was released, from my understanding, on good behavior. Well, I
hope his stay on the mortal plane is a short one.
That he exhibited in killing this child and trying to kill others in the same home outweighs any good behavior he could do in the next 400 years.
Exantis did appear in court this morning. He's being held without bond. Officials believe that this new arrest is a violation of his current parole conditions, and they're trying to work to send him back to Kentucky.
How did he get out of prison in one piece as a child killer? That's a great question. Next question. We have this guy who ran through the facts of the Tipton case. The extent of the horror that the black home invader and murderer Ronald Exantis visited upon a white family in Kentucky is overlooked in most coverage. The ongoing injustice to the family is grossly understated. Exantis didn't only slaughter white 6-year-old Logan Tipton, stabbing Logan to death in Logan's own bedroom, he also attempted to murder 3 of Logan's siblings and Logan's father, stabbing a total of 5 family members. Here's exactly how the horrific December night unfolded at the Tiptons' home in Kentucky. Ronald Exantis enters the Tipton home around 4 a.m. carrying a large kitchen knife. Exantis enters the bedroom of 6-year-old Logan and his 4-year-old brother. Exantis pulls Logan off the top bunk bed and quite literally slaughters him, stabbing him in the head and neck dozens upon dozens of times, violently killing him in the bloodiest fashion possible. And we also know that with the force of the knife, he also bent the knife from that other news story. Exantis then stabs Logan's 4-year-old brother in the head multiple times, but the boy survives. Exantis then enters the bedroom where Logan's 8 and 11-year-old sisters are sleeping. Exantis stabs the 11-year-old girl multiple times in the head and torso and throws her across the room. She survives. Exantis stabs the 8-year-old girl multiple times in the head and neck. She survives. The commotion awakens Logan's 13-year-old sister, who comes upon the nightmarish scene and screams. The girl's scream woke Logan's father, who comes to his family's aid, fights Exantis unarmed, is stabbed multiple times, but successfully forces Exantis out of the home. When the case goes to trial, Exantis is found not guilty by reason of insanity for the savage murder of 6-year-old Logan Tipton. He's found guilty but mentally ill for the following: criminal attempt to commit murder for the stabbing of the 3 older children, first-degree assault for stabbing the 3 other children, first-degree burglary, first degree because of inflicted injuries. Ronald Exantis was sentenced to 20 years in the Kentucky Department of Corrections. Not a single day of that sentence was for what he did to 6-year-old Logan Tipton. He will never suffer any legal consequences specifically for what he did to Logan. Fast forward to October 1st of this year, Ronald Exantis was released early for good behavior after serving less than half of his sentence. He immediately relocated to Florida, was arrested a week later for failing to register as a convicted felon, and has been returned to prison in Kentucky for his parole violation. After all of this, he's scheduled to be fully released in June of 2026. No parole, no nothing, a 100% free man. In 6 months, this literal monster will be just as free as you or me, more free than every surviving member of Logan's family, who have lived in a mental prison ever since, and now must live in a world where the criminal psychopath who tried to kill them is all but being set loose back upon society without restriction. A murdered 6-year-old, attempted murder of a 4, 8, and 11-year-old, and attempted murder of their father. A bloodbath crime scene for the ages, and the man who did it walks free 10 years later. I lack the vocabulary to convey how evil this system is. And so let me go grab this article really quick here. Family furious as Kentucky child killer freed 9 years early for good behavior, only to be quickly rearrested. December 9th, so same day as that tweet we just read. Kentucky child killer who butchered a boy to death in his sleep ended up being released from prison nearly a decade early for good behavior, only to be rearrested just weeks later for violating his parole. He's due to be released again next year, this time with no parole restriction. Ronald Exantis, 42, of Indianapolis, was slapped with just a 20-year sentence after he broke into 6-year-old Logan Tipton's home in Versailles, Kentucky, and went on a late-night stabbing frenzy back in 2015. He used the insanity defense and was found not guilty of murdering the kindergartner, but was convicted on 3 assault charges for knifing the other members of the Logan family. After racking up good behavior credits in the slammer, Exantis wound up shaving more than 9 years off his sentence and became eligible for early release in October, sparking fury from the little boy's family. Something needs to be changed because it cannot be that easy. You've committed a very heinous crime and it's just given to you. Logan's sister Cora Tipton said of Exantis' early release. Logan's grief-stricken family blasted the ordeal as they prepared to commemorate what would have been the slain boy's 16th birthday over the weekend. Exantis was cut loose from the Kentucky prison on October 1st and moved to Marion County, Florida. He was rearrested just 8 days later after he failed to register as a convicted felon with the local sheriff's office within 48 hours of arriving, as required by the conditions of his parole. Exantis has been extradited back to Kentucky, but a second quirk in Kentucky's prison regulations means that he could get out again next year, this time with no parole. The family, as well as state lawmakers, are now pushing for reforms to Kentucky's mandatory re-entry supervision laws in a bid to crack down on how much good time can be factored in before being released. Anecdotally speaking, I've seen people get good time credit for learning to play guitar. It was considered an educational credit, which reduced the time of their sentence. Kentucky Commonwealth's Attorneys Association President Ronnie Bowling said, "Ah, yes. He learned to play guitar. That means it was fine that he murdered a child." In Exantis' case, he was given 5 years good credit for following the rules, 2 years for exceptional meritorious service, and 10 months for educational programs he completed. You get 5 years off your sentence for following the rules? That's just what's expected of you normally. What do they mean by this? Meanwhile, State Rep Jason Nemez is trying to introduce Logan's Law to ensure those found guilty by reason of insanity are sent to a mental health facility. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? No, I don't want them sent to a mental health facility. I don't want them sent to prison. If there is resounding evidence that this person done did the thing, they should just get the death penalty. What the fuck are we talking about here? We need to make sure that we clean it up to say that if the jury finds that you committed the crime, but that you can't be held responsible and go to prison because you were insane at the time, which, by the way, we need to limit in and of itself. But if the jury makes that finding, then you can't go back out in our communities immediately. You have to go somewhere. I mean, yes, but it should not be to a mental health facility. It should be in a box in the ground. Or maybe an urn, depending on what, their family wanted. If someone does something unforgivable like murdering kids, there is no reason to let them continue living. You fully agree? Yeah. It's insane that we've just accepted that, yeah, this is okay, by the way. Like, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? And the point that he can just get released with no parole next year? Also fucking insane. What the hell? cut off by their banks and even iced out by Alexa, sanctioned ICC staffers remain resolute. The International Criminal Court judges and prosecutors are trying to live and work under the same financial and travel restrictions brought against Russian President Vladimir Putin and Osama bin Laden. And I was like, I'm sorry, what the fuck is going on? What is this? What's happening? The Hague in the Netherlands, judges and prosecutors at the International Criminal Court are trying to live and work under the same US financial and travel restrictions brought against Vladimir Putin and Osama bin Laden. 9 staff members, including 6 judges and the ICC's chief prosecutor, have been sanctioned by US President Donald Trump for pursuing investigations into officials from the US and Israel, which aren't among the Hague's court to 125 member states. Okay, so interesting here. Both the US and Israel are not part of the member states of the International Court, which kind of makes sense, because International Criminal Court kind of makes me think of, like, globalist nonsense. But also, why would he include Israel in this list, right? Because the first thing that pops up in my mind when I read this is, wasn't Epstein, like, an agent? Didn't he have, like, ties to, like, Israel intelligence? You know? Typically reserved for autocrats, crime bosses, and the like, the sanctions can be devastating. They prevent the ICC officials and their families from entering the United States, block their access to even basic financial services, and extend the minutiae of their everyday lives. The court's top prosecutor, British national Karim Khan, had his bank accounts closed and his US visa revoked. And Microsoft even cancelled his ICC email address. Canadian judge Kimberly Prost, who was named in the latest round of sanctions in August, immediately lost her access to credit cards, and Amazon's Alexa stopped responding to her. I think that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy that, like, they could even stop Alexa from responding to your voice, you know? Your whole world is restricted, Prost told the Associated Press last week. Prost had an inkling of what would happen when she made the list, and before joining the ICC in 2017, she worked on sanctions for the UN Security Council. She was targeted by the Trump administration for voting to allow the court's investigation into alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Afghanistan, including by American troops and intelligence operatives. I've worked all my life in criminal justice, and now I'm on a list with those implicated in terrorism and organized crime. I don't know, maybe it's just the suspicious person inside of me, but it seems very interesting that someone serving something called the International Criminal Court is now talking about, I'm on a list with people involved in organized crime. Especially considering the amount of complaining all of us have been doing about how bad even our national justice systems are. I don't know, it's a little interesting. The sanctions have taken their toll on the court's work across a broad array of investigations at a time when the institution is juggling ever more demands on its resources and a leadership crisis centered on Khan. Earlier this year, he stepped aside pending the outcome of an investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct. He denies the allegations. You can't tell me that British national Karim Khan managed to rise to, like, top prosecutor in the International Criminal Court, and even he has allegations of sexual misconduct. Oh god, the memes. How companies comply with sanctions can be unpredictable. Businesses and individuals risk substantial US fines and prison time if they provide sanctioned people with financial, material, or technological support, forcing many to stop working with them. The sanctions' effects can be sweeping and even surprising. Shortly after she was listed, Prost bought an ebook, The Queen's Necklace, by Antal Szerb, only to later find it had disappeared from her device. It's the uncertainties, she said. They're small annoyances, but they accumulate. I never even thought about that, but that is a little funny that if you've become unpersoned, if you buy, like, an ebook, they can just be like, nope, you didn't buy that. No ebook for you. Fuck it, off your device. That's crazy. That is crazy. Luis del Carmen Ibanez Carranza, too many names, don't trust him. A sanctioned Peruvian judge who was involved in the same Afghanistan decision as Prost told the AP that the problems are not only for me, but also for my daughters, who can no longer attend work conferences in the US. What were their work conferences about? Also, why does that extend to, like, his daughters? A little weird. Sanctioned people got the you own nothing and you'll be happy patch way ahead of time. True! They're having to live by their own rules. Deputy Prosecutor Nazat Shamim Khan echoed her colleagues' concerns, saying, "You're never quite sure when your card is not working somewhere, whether this is just a glitch or whether this is the sanction." I feel like the more I read, the less I care that these people got sanctioned. Meanwhile, the staffers, some of whom also face arrest warrants in Russia, are worried that Washington might sanction the entire ICC, rendering it unable to pay employees, provide financial assistance to protected witnesses, or even keep the lights on. Why do they have arrest warrants in Russia? Why does everyone seem to hate this international criminal court that just sounds like globo homo nonsense? Meanwhile, the staffers, some of whom also face arrest warrants in Russia, how did I manage to reread something after I took a second to check where I was? Absolute brain damage. The ICC was established in 2002 as the world's permanent court of last resort to prosecute individuals responsible for the most heinous atrocities: war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and the crime of aggression. It only takes action when nations are unable or unwilling to prosecute those crimes on their territory. What is the crime of aggression? What does that mean? What does that mean? And also, if this court was worth literally anything, wouldn't they have done something about, like, the Uyghur genocide in China? So this sounds like any kind of, like, DEI initiative in the US where they're like, yes, we're going to punish all these criminals, and then they do nothing but help the criminals. The court has no police force and relies on member states to execute arrest warrants, making it very unlikely that any US or Israeli official would end up in the dock. But those wanted by the court, like Putin, can risk arrest when traveling abroad or after leaving office. The ICC took custody this year of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, who is accused of crimes against humanity for his deadly anti-drug crackdowns. Question, why would the International Criminal Court be upset at Duterte for killing drug traffickers? I feel like as the International Criminal Court, you should be praising him for his anti-drug measures, especially considering how long this ridiculous war on drugs has been going on and lining politicians' pockets by talking about it instead of doing anything about it. So maybe with the name International Criminal Court, it's not a criminal court like we would typically understand a criminal court to be. It is the court to protect the criminals. Because a lot of innocent people were killed with the anti-drug measures as backdrop. If he was killing innocent people, then yeah, that do be bad. Because it interferes with the global drug trade, the North Sea Nexus has a lot of investment. You don't want that drug trade though, man. We watched a, like, anti-Islamization of America protest on stream, I think a couple of weeks ago now. And it looks like the same people, question mark, had another anti-Islamification of America protest in which they carried an oinking pig, and he's got a little, like, pigu in his, I don't know if that's a baby pig or if it's a teacup pig, but he got a little pigu. He got a little pigu. Americans and Christians are currently peacefully marching against Islam in Plano, Texas, near a mosque. And I think like it would be okay to carry around a pigu, but I don't think you should, like, hold it like a prop. Like, maybe treat the animal a little better. I don't know. Maybe that's the woman in me talking, but I don't like seeing pigu get manhandled. It makes me sad.
Send them back! Send them back! Send them back! Send them back! Has gone too far. The people are done being pushed around by Islam. They are done being pushed around. Oh, there we go, buddy. Oh, hamhead. Oh, that's a Muslim prayer call right there. You hear that?
I just feel bad for the pigu. I just feel bad for it. I don't. Maybe don't have the pigu. It seems very distressed, and that makes me feel bad for it.
That's a Muslim prayer call. That's the Islamic call to prayer? Yeah, that is right there. Our country has shifted.
Yeah,
God bless you, sir.
Make
Our country has
feel
dramatically
safe.
shifted. In just 2 generations, we've seen the displacement of white people and Christians at the point of existential crisis. Existential crisis. Our way of life is under attack.
The pig's fine. It squeals. They squeal like that all the time. Maybe. That's why I said maybe it's the woman in me talking. Because I've never handled a pig, right? The pig who could be fine. I don't know. But, like, I just see that. And my woman is just like, no, the pig, ooh, he's sad. I could just be being like those Facebook boomers that see, like, a cat make a noise. And they're like, oh, my God, you're hurting the cat. And it's like, well, as a cat owner, I know they're not hurting the cat. You know?
White children will not have a future in our country if we allow these people to come and swarm us.
See, I think that's a weird thing to say when talking about Islam. The guy's got a point, but it's weird that he immediately turns it into like this specifically, Islam specifically is a white replacement thing. Like, I don't know, that's weird to me. That's kind of, I'm like, this guy's a Fed. Yeah. This feels very Fed op to me.
Invade us with their wicked ideology. They are procreating at 3 times the rate of white Americans. In 2 generations, we will have a dramatically different world. And it is not going to happen in America.
Stop making it a race thing. That's the one time. Yeah. It's like, I don't think this is a race thing. You can easily get your point across by being like, Islam is a conquest religion. It is not here to live peacefully with other religions. It is here to lie to you until it is the majority and then subjugate you. VSK 2033, thank you. As someone that's conservative and believes we need change, you don't want to believe in using animals as props since they're the most innocent beings in your mind. You're too soft-hearted towards them. Yeah. Like, I mean, the last time he wandered around with a pack of bacon, he could have done that again. I don't know, the pig just makes me feel sad. I like, what if like something had happened, you know, like I don't want the pigoo to get hurt. I don't know, I kind of agree. I think I kind of agree. It's kind of like children. Don't bring children and animals to protests, man. Amid the revelation that Minnesota Attorney General Keith Elison met with and took money from Somali fraudsters, it has now been revealed that his son has been collecting a $110,000 salary and $57,000 living expense stipend from the Minneapolis City Council while attending Harvard.
This morning, Jeremiah Elison was among the outgoing city council members to get an honorary resolution for their years of service.
So I give my gratitude to the North Side.
But one issue not mentioned, where he's been the final 5 months of his term. Harvard University as a Loeb Fellow. R.J. Coles first broke this story this summer, and it caught some off guard.
His Ward 5 constituents deserve a council member who shows up.
Ellison is splitting his time between here and Cambridge, Massachusetts. He's still earning his $110,000 city salary on top of a $57,000 stipend from Harvard. Now 5 Investigates has obtained these internal emails showing Ellison's office wanted more. They requested the Ward 5 budget to cover travel expenses, specifically round-trip travel between Minneapolis and Boston.
It just seems like as soon as you get into any kind of position of political power, all of these people feel like taxpayer money is just their personal bank account. It's also fucking tiresome, man.
So Elison could attend city council meetings every other week from August to the end of the year. In response to Ellison's request, the city clerk acknowledged the prestigious program, but said it's a personal professional development opportunity, and travel for this purpose is not allowed.
It's very disconcerting.
We sat down with 2 very engaged Ward 5 residents.
As a retired math teacher, I can't imagine asking my students to pay for me to commute to and from school. We are his constituents.
I also am glad that the city rejected that request.
Elison has long maintained he can do both, even from afar. But fellow council members kicked him off most committees. Here's what he told our Eric Shalou in September.
You'll certainly see me at council meetings, barring some kind of emergency, but you'll certainly see me at full council.
But our review of council attendance records shows he's missed 5 of the 11 meetings ever since he's accepted that Harvard fellowship.
I'm so shocked.
Now, I was at that city council this morning, that meeting, but was only able to talk to Elison via text message.
where he called this story flimsy, a hit piece, and refused to do an interview unless I could prove that this was somehow in the public's interest. By the way, he appeared to defend that request, saying the travel was related to his urban planning related education and urban planning related job.
That's so fucking dumb. Holy shit.
5 Eyewitness News. Thank you.
How do you not glow? And then someone down here said, not breaking news, we Minnesotans have known about this for months. If KARE 11, WCCO, KSTP, and all the other MSN reported on this instead of running cover for Waltz, he would never have been chosen as the VP candidate. That's great. I'm sure we're all going to feel the same way once 6 months from now we start seeing accounts on Twitter say, breaking news, Somalian fraud uncovered in Maine. And we're all going to be like, yeah, we've known about this for fucking months. It's just like nothing ever happens. And I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. Wake up call from Chicago. Muslim declares on video, Islam did not come to coexist. Islam is always superior. Nothing is above Islam. And I think this was a very, very interesting thing to remind everyone about in the wake of multiple terror attacks and one thwarted Christmas market terror attack, and also all of the crazy amounts of fraud going on in different areas.
Unfortunately, these days we don't repeat this enough, or we don't have this aqidah concept firm in our minds that Islam did not come to coexist. Islam لا يعلى. الإسلام يعلو ولا يعلى عليه.
Islam is always superior and should never be surpassed, is what the Prophet Muhammad said.
And Islam is raised high and nothing is raised above Islam. We can't think of Islam that it came to live with these other religions, in the sense that Islam is a religion amongst those religions, and they have a share with the truth. And they have a share of justice. And they have a share of, this worship of Allah, the correct worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam came to correct all of that. Islam came to remove the oppression of all those religions. And it is the only truth, and it is the only way to justice.
It's like, how many times do we need to hear people say this before it's taken seriously, I guess? Because this isn't the first time I've played a video of someone saying that. And so it kind of confounds me. Telling the truth, Islam doesn't assimilate, it tries to conquer. Yup.